Hello students, this is Vishwanath. Today I'd like to discuss about one of the theoretical chapter, means theoretical concept, that is inverse trigonometric function, okay, which is for your theory syllabus, means marks distribution in the annual examination will be 1 marks, 1 question will be there, 2 marks, 2 questions, means 2 into 2, 4 will be there, and 3 marks, 1 question will be there, and totally 3 plus 4 plus 1 will be 8. Okay, the chapter is very simple, and you must know about the trigonometric ratio table, means sine 30, sine 45, sine 60. Instead of degrees, you need to prefer only radian measures like a 0, pi by 6, pi by 4, pi by 3, pi by 2. Fine. Okay, what is actually how to understand the inverse trigonometry function? Very basic thing I'd like to take here. The basic thing is like this, means in the first year part you learned what is sine of 0. What is sine 0? It will be 0. What is sine of pi by 6? Pi by 6 is nothing but a 30 degree. Sine pi by 6 will be 1 divided by 2. What is sine of pi by 4? Its value is 1 by root 2. Means how we are going to learn this one in the inverse trigonometric function. Concentrate here. I'd like to take this sine on right hand side, which will become this sine function on right hand side. It will become sine inverse of 0. What is left value here? That is also 0. I think you are getting my point. If you understood this one, then there is no problem. Otherwise, I'll go for the next one. See here, sine inverse of, I like to take this sine function on right hand side. Sine inverse of 1 by 2 means sine is taken on right hand side. Sine inverse of 1 by 2 will be, what is the value? Yes, exactly, it is pi by 6. If I am going to take sine on right hand side, it will become sine inverse of 1 divided by root 2. What is sine of 1 by root 2? What angle you need to say? It is pi by 4. Yes. Now I'll take now the remaining directly now. What is sine inverse of root 3 by 2? Can you say? Means what is the meaning of sine inverse of root 3 by 2 is very simple. It is sine is having the value root 3 by 2 for which angle? Yes, exactly. It is for the pi by 3. Okay, right. Now what about next? Sine inverse of 1. What is sine inverse of 1? Yes, sine is having the value 1 for which angle? For the angle pi by 2. Is it clear? Means in the second PU part you are going to learn this one. Means you need to understand, that is sine, cos, tan are defined for the particular value for which angle. For which angle we need to say the angles now. That is means whenever sine is defined for the particular angles, we got the values. Now inverse of trigonometric functions defined for the values, you need to say the angles. Fine. That's good. Now concentrate. In this one only, I'd like to take what is sine pi. Sine pi value is 0. What is sine 0 value? That too 0. Means what is? Means whenever I am going to take sine on right hand side, sine inverse of 0 will be again 0. Sine inverse of 0 will be pi. Here we are getting 2 values. We are getting 2 values. Means again will get confused in this particular part. To avoid this type of confusion, means how to find the inverse trigonometric function domains and ranges. About that I'd like to discuss. Concentrate now. Okay, means first of all I'd like to discuss about now what is inverse function. What is inverse function? Okay, the inverse function is very simple. Means I'd like to define a function, a function or a mapping mapping or function, both are same, a function or a mapping f from a to b, a to b, a to b. What is the inverse of this function? Inverse of this function, when we are going to define, means f is, means the function f is, it must be 1 to 1, it must be 1 1, and it must be onto. If it is 1 1 as well as onto, then only we can define its inverse of the function. Okay, inverse of the function means we can denote it like this. F inverse is defined as, it is b to a. Means you need to understand here, a is nothing but a domain. Okay, here b is nothing but a range. Okay, in the inverse, the range will be domain and domain will be range. Interchange means adla badli ho jayega. That's why it is interchanging the position. Domain will be range, range will be domain. Okay. Again, the next aspect will be, what is the meaning of 1 1 and what is the meaning of onto. Okay. I'd like to take one simple example, that is, it is A, this one is B. A is nothing but a domain part, B is nothing but a codomain. It is domain, it is codomain part. Fine. Okay, this is nothing but a B C. For an example, I'd like to discuss here A B C, and the next one is, here I'd like to define 1 2 3 4. Okay, now if there is a 1 to 1 correspondence is there in between domain and codomain. 1 to 1 correspondence means 1 is having a preimage as a, 2 is having a preimage as a B, 3 is having a preimage as a C. 1 to 1 correspondence. Then only we are going to say it as a 1 1. Getting my point? Is it clear? If C is associated with 2 only, then it is not 1 1. Then it is not 1 1. Now when it is 1 1, there is a 1 to 1 correspondence must be there. And some of the students are thinking, sir, what about this for 4? 4 is not having a preimage. Yes, if 4 is not having any preimage, then there is no problem. Then also it is 1 1. Getting my point? Okay. Then I'd like to take the concept onto now. What's the meaning of onto? Onto is very simple. Codomain, you can see easily. For the same example, I'd like to define onto. What is onto means? Every term in the codomain. What? Every term in the codomain is having a preimage. Okay. Whether 1 is having a preimage? Yes. 2 is having the preimage? Yes. 3 is having the preimage? Yes. What about 4 is having any preimage? No. That's why which is not onto. Which is not onto. Why? Because 4 is not having any preimage. If I am going to remove this 4, then it will become what? Yes, it is onto. Means every term in the codomain has a preimage, and every term is having a unique preimage. Unique preimage means different. 1 is having a, 2 is having a B, 3 is having a C. That is different preimage. The terms must be having the relation. Got the point clearly? Okay. Means when the function is 1 1 and the function is onto, then only we can define inverse of the function. Got the point? Okay, fine. Then now I'd like to define, based upon these functions, I'd like to define inverse trigonometric function individually. Okay, right? At glance the part, inverse function means a mapping f from a to b. It is a mapping when it is possible to define its inverse, means when the function must be 1 1 as well as onto. It must be 1 1, it must be onto. Then only we can define inverse. Inverse में क्या हो जाएगा? Whenever f from a to b will be, f inverse will be b to a. A to b, domain range. The range will become a domain. Domain will become a range. Got the point clearly? Fine. Okay. Now, I'd like to discuss about now one by one trigonometric function ratios. Concentrate. First of all, I'd like to take y is equal to sine x graph. Okay. Y is equal to sine x graph. I'd like to draw the graph here. X dash, y. Okay. Now, particularly the graph will be like this. Am I right or not? You are already familiar with the graph. You already learned this one in the trigonometric part. Okay. It is a region. It will be pi by 2. It is pi. It is 3 pi by 2. It is 2 pi. It is minus pi by 2. It's a minus pi. Minus 3 pi by 2. It is minus 2 pi. Okay. This is a graph. And now you need to understand what is sine 0. Sine 0 is 0. Okay. Now what is sine pi? Can you say? Sine pi will be, sine pi is also 0. What is the sine of 2 pi? That value is also 0. Got the point clearly? Both the values. Then whether this is 1 1, no, it is not 1 1. Why? Because 0 is having a preimage as a 0, sine pi, sine 2 pi. Both are having a same preimage. Means every term in the domain has a related to only 0. That's why it is not 1 1. Got the point clearly? Means you need to understand in which part or in which interval it is having a single values, and it must be having all the values. All the values means for the onto means what? Onto means every term in the codomain has a preimage. Now I'd like to discuss now. Concentrate. If you are going to say it as a now 0 to pi by 2. If your answer is in the interval 0 to pi by 2, now I need to check. 0 to pi by 2 means 0 to pi by 2. This part, whether it is covering, means only 0 to 1. It's actually having a maximum value, sine value is 1, minimum value is minus 1. It is only covering positive value, but negative values are left over as it is. Okay. For that reason, to cover the negative values, I'd like to take this part now. Okay. If I'm going to take cover this part, it will take minus 1, remaining all the values in between minus 1 to plus 1 it will be having. Okay, got the point clearly? Means in this particular interval it is having all the values 1 to 1, means bisective, means it is what? It is 1 1 as well as on 2. Concentrate here. Means how I have to define this one? It is a sine of x. What's the domain that I am selecting? It is minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. What about the range now? Yes, exactly. On the y-axis it is a range minus 1 to, yes, plus 1 it is. I think you understood the part clearly. Now, how to define a sine inverse, can you say? Yes, it is very simple to define sine inverse. Domain will be range will be domain. What is the range here? For the sine function, range is minus 1 to plus 1. For the sine inverse of x, the domain will be minus 1 to plus 1. The range will be minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. I need to take here closed interval. I need to take what? Closed interval. Why we have to take a closed interval? Means end points, this pi by 2 as well as minus pi by 2, both are included. Is it clear? Fine. Now I'd like to draw the graph of inverse of sine x also. Concentrate on the board. It is like this. Find x dash, y dash. Okay. It will be minus pi by 2. Oh no, it is not a minus pi by 2. Now what I told you, interchanging domain to range to domain, it will become inverse. On the range values, what are the values in the graph? Sin x minus 1 to plus 1. That is on y-axis. That I need to take on x-axis, minus 1 to plus 1. Is it clear? Then after this one, I need to define the angles. It will be pi by 2. It is pi. It is 3 pi by 2. Now it is minus pi by 2. Minus pi, minus 3 pi by 2 minus 2 pi. Whether you understood clearly? Okay. Now I'd like to take the values here. Means the values will be, the graph will be like this. Okay. Fine. Now, in which interval? The value, it will take all the values between minus 1 to plus 1. It is nothing but a minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. In this particular part, it is 1 1 as well as on 2. For that reason, was the domain, you can see here, domain means x-axis, minus 1 to plus 1. That I wrote here, minus 1 to plus 1. What about the range now? That is minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. I think you understood the graph. Okay. Fine. You can note down or you can take the screenshot of this one. Okay. Fine. I'd like to discuss about the next, but you need to remember this portion, this part you need to remember. Means whenever I'm going to ask sine inverse of x domain, means you need to say minus 1 to plus 1. Whenever I'm going to ask sine inverse of range will be minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2, that too closed interval. Okay na? Fine. Okay. Concentrate now. Now, the next one graph is y is equal to cos x. I think you are completely familiar with the graph now. X dash, y dash, y. Now, in the values, the graph will be, it is 0, it's pi by 2, it's pi, it's 3 pi by 2. Now, the next one will be 2 pi. It's minus pi by 2, minus pi, minus 3 pi by 2. Is it clear? Now concentrate here. 1, it is minus 1. Cos is having the value 1. For which angle? 0. That's why the graph is like this. Okay, this x dash, okay. The graph will look like this, okay. Now again you need to think in which angle or in which interval the function, the cos x function is 1 1 as well as on 2. 1 1 means 1 to 1 correspondence, and that is nothing but a domain and codomain as having a 1 to 1 correspondence, means 1 to 1 correspondence will be there. And what about on 2? All the terms in the codomain are having a pre-image. Okay. How to understand this one? If your answer is means sometimes cos x means for the sin x you told the domain as minus 1 to plus 1, like that only here also minus 1 to plus 1 you told, that is correct. But if you are going to say the range, what will be the range? If your answer, suppose I'm saying, if your answer is minus pi by 2 plus pi by 2, then it will be wrong. How it will be wrong? Concentrate here. If I'm going to take minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2, see here. Okay, minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2 means I am going to take like this, minus pi by 2 to 0, which will cover all the positive value. Okay, again 0 to pi by 2, again it is also covering what? Positive value only. Am I right or not? If both are covering positive value, what about the negative value? Means in the range part, some of the terms are left over without pre-image. Okay, in the range part, it is a range, our range part, positive part is there. What about negative part? No part is there. That's why minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2, it is not a range of cos x. Understood clearly? Okay, then we need to think now again. Okay, it is wrong one now. Means how to think now? It is 0 to pi by 2. If you are going to take 0 to pi by 2, again range part is observed with the positive part. Am I right? Positive. What about pi by 2 to pi? Again, which will cover negative value. Understood clearly? Okay. The domain is the range part in this one, it is minus 1 to plus 1. Okay, minus 1 to plus 1. What's the domain now? What's the domain? Domain is 0 to pi. It is what? 0 to pi. Getting my point clearly? Then how I had to define cos inverse of x? How to define a cos inverse of x? Can you say? Cos inverse of x means if we are going to interchange the domain to range to domain, it will become regular. -1 to 1 to range will be 0 to pi. You need to remember this one. This is the domain and range of the cos x. Okay, cos inverse of x. Now how to draw the cos inverse of x graph? Y is equal to cos inverse of x graph I'd like to draw. I think you already understood. Then also I'd like to draw the graph in the simple way. X dash y. It's pi by 2, it's pi, it's 3 pi by 2, it's 2 pi, okay. Minus pi by 2, it is minus pi, okay. Now the graph will be like this. Means I'm interchanging domain to range, range to domain. Here in the range -1 to +1 is there. I already converted to domain it is, okay. Concentrate on the board. See, cos values, cos graph will be like this. Fine, okay. What is the domain here? Domain, it must cover all the values, means -1 to +1, that is covering. What about the range value? 0 to pi. 0 to pi means I need to shade like this. Means 0 to 1 it is covered by 0 to pi by 2, and again pi by 2 to pi, which must cover all the negative values. Okay. Now you can recall now. What is the sine inverse of x domain? Sine inverse of x domain is -1 to +1. Cos inverse of x domain, that is also -1 to +1. But sine inverse of x range is minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. But cos inverse of x range is 0 to pi. Both are closed interval. Got the point? Yes. That's good. Now I'd like to take one more part, that is for the tan inverse. Okay. Only one graph I'd like to take. Fine. Concentrate on the board. Y is equal to tan x graph I'd like to draw.